And tonight we're talking about The Red Shoes from 1948, directed by Michael Powell and Emmerich Pressburger, more well known perhaps as The Archers, which was their handle given to them, or they adopted for the several dozen films that they produced together for their careers, and which they're kind of revered for. And we will cross their paths many, many times as we go forward through this Criterion Collection. As Criterion has, they got quite a crush on that Michael Powell and Pressburger. I think the next one we are going to be watching is actually Peeping Tom, which is Michael Powell's weirdo kind of serial killer movie.
That sounds good.
Yeah, so The Red Shoes. It is a kind of an adaptation of the Hans Christian Andersen story, The Red Shoes, which is kind of like played out in the story itself. And then the story is sort of a metaphor of that in itself. So the film, it follows pretty well three characters. There is Vicki Page, the daughter of an aristocrat who is taking up dance on her own. The story of Julian Craster, who is a music student who's love of music, of making scores, is not being appreciated in his opinion. And basically both their futures they feel are going to be held in the hands of one Boris Lermontov, who runs a ballet company in the city. And the film opens up with the most enthusiastic crowd of people I've ever seen crashing through doors, stealing seats, and just like clamoring in to watch themselves some ballet. So Julian Craster, who's in the audience, he's there to take in the work of his instructor, who he turns out is ripping him off, much to his chagrin. And then Vicki Page's aunt, she's there because she wants Boris Lermontov to come to her shindig after the performance so she could butter him up and introduce her to her niece, Vicki. So that plays out. We are introduced to Boris Lermontov as kind of a man behind the curtain. You just see like his hands gesturing and stuff like that. And then we get to see him wearing a series of ridiculous outfits throughout this whole film.
Yes.
And I mean, pretty well from the get-go, you know kind of where this movie's going to a certain degree. So you have to a certain, okay. So you have the snooty man who has like the futures of these characters that within his power to control whether they're successful or not. But I guess it turns out that both these people are actually fairly good, actually very great at what they do, which is writing music and dancing. So Boris, of course, like uses this to improve the reputation of his own company by letting Julian write the score for an adaptation of the Hans Christian Andersen story, The Red Shoes, and he comes up with a cracking score. And Vicki Page kind of through maneuvering and making her way through the world of backstage ballet politics, she kind of rises to the top as being like the lead dancer and the lead in this play. And it's a huge success, and everyone goes on vacation. Everyone's palling around, making plans for the next thing. And of course, Boris is kind of playing kind of this in his own mind, kind of like the mastermind who's aloof from everything, and he's just like really pleased with himself. This all comes crashing to a halt for him, though, when he finds out that Vicki and Julian have begun a relationship with one another. Dun, dun, dun.
Just like us.
And so this kind of like begins the beginning of the end for the whole like happy threesome, which are all benefiting from one another. Somewhere in there, RJ, we get the actual Red Shoes musical number, which
it's about an hour in.
Yeah, for an hour in, and it plays for about 15-20 minutes.
Yep.
We'll talk about that. And then, so like for the rest of the plot itself, so Boris doesn't want Julian in the company anymore, and the deal with Vicki is that she can't dance unless she's not going to be able to dance unless he does what he wants. I don't know. Then I'm going off the cuff here. Basically what happens is Vicki has to make a decision whether it's like I go with the company so I can dance and do the thing I love, or for love with Julian, and she
Yes.
chooses the dance.
For love or ambition, man.
That's right.
What are you gonna pick?
Mm-hmm. And like a flame burning too hot, she burns fast. Symbolized
Really fast.
Yes.
Yeah.
And she, dances her way right out the doors and off a balcony. It's all very sad. It's a real tragedy. Spoilers.
Jeez.
So RJ,
Mm-hmm.
what did you think of the red shoes? Because if I recall correctly, last week you made some comment about, well, that sounds boring.
Yeah, it does. Does that not sound boring? Hey, what's this movie we're gonna watch? I don't know. It's about ballet or some
Yep.
shit. It's like, oh, that sounds fucking boring.
Yep. Sounds like a real Henry V type deal.
Yeah. So I knew nothing about this movie other than I knew it was lived infamously on that Edgar Wright's 1,000 favorite movies, which everyone was talking about for a while.
That's what it's best known for. Yep.
Yeah, that's what it's best known for. That's the first time I heard about it. So I didn't know anything about this movie.
Mm-hmm.
So I went in cold. And as you said, I'd never seen an introduction where so many people are so jazzed to see a fucking ballet. Like, these guys were bursting. I actually forgot you told me this movie was about a ballet, and the students all burst in. I was like, God damn. I was like, these motherfuckers are rioting. I was like, shit must be tense. And then they were all in the seats, and I was like, oh yeah, this is about ballet. I was like, what the fuck? So I watched this, and you know what? I actually really like this show.
Yeah.
I don't think it's like super amazing, but that the ballet part of the red shoes, that is pretty amazing. I thought that really won me over because the first hour I was kind of like, I was watching it and I was interested, and I was like, this is pretty good. It's kind of boring. It's a little slow. That's okay. I think it's all right. And then the ballet hit, and I was like, oh, fuck. And I was like, I hope the rest of it, I checked the time. I was like, there's an hour and 10 left. I was like, I hope the rest of it is just the ballet, and they just show you the ballet as a movie. I guess that was a little dumb of me to think that it might go that way. But yeah, the ballet was really good. There were some things that I didn't much like near the end where it's like, well, do I go for love or do I go for work? I was like, okay, I get it. But then it takes like a crazy fucking turn. I was like, whoa. I was like, I didn't see that happening. It's kind of like there was a few like abrupt things in this movie. Like when she first like goes with that guy and gets married, and then they like leave the ballet company. I was like, where did that come from? I was like, they kind of foreshadow it earlier with like a different dancer who like gets married, and it's like, well, you're not a ballerina anymore. You get out of here, Tuss.
Yep.
So I was like, all right, but I thought that was really abrupt. And then I thought the ending is really abrupt too, when the composer shows up as the fucking Nazi hunter from Raiders of the Lost Ark. Did you see that guy? Like, her husband, like, she like pans and he's in the room. He's wearing like a huge leather duster and his like red hair is slicked back, and he's like, I want to date you. And it's like, oh god, this guy's fucking creepy.
So less Nazi hunter and more Nazi.
Not Nazi hunter. I meant like Nazi, hunter of the Lost Ark.
Good old SS.
SS, yeah. But no, I thought this movie was pretty cool. It made me really wish things were still trendy, like cloaks and binoculars for the theater. I thought that was cool. As you mentioned, boyfriend, like the theater guy, has the craziest fucking wardrobe. My first written thing was, the fuck is this green kimono? And then he does it again later, like when he's mad, he wears these like whenever he gets pissed off, he wears these like kimono things that are like, basically it's like a smoking jacket, but it buttons all the way up to like the chin, so it's like kind of like a turtleneck, but it's like got like all this garish like flair on it and stuff like that. But I did think that was pretty cool. There's a scene where he's mad and he's eating grapes, and for some reason, you can't show eating grapes in a good way. It's weird, it's unnatural, and it just makes you look like a fucking pervert. Anytime you eat grapes, it makes you look weird, okay? I did like, as I said, like a lot of trend things I wish were trendy still. This movie's got a lot of really fun quirks. Like there's a scene where the instructor is like, class dismissed, and then he really quickly puts on a hairnet and like pirouettes away. I thought that was fucking hilarious. Maybe unintentionally, but it was still super cool. I think my biggest thing about this movie was I can't believe this thing was made in 1948. Doesn't feel like it. It feels like like I was watching it and I was like, I feel like this movie was made in like 72.
Huh.
I don't know if that's like I mean it as a compliment.
Yeah.
I was impressed with what they did. Like they don't do anything crazy. The actual ballet is pretty cool. They do a lot of like cool animations and like showing like the abstract symbolism of what ballet shows, but like actually showing what it means. And they do that through like different kinds of animations and things like that. I thought that was really neat. So super impressive for 48, but I just thought the whole movie in general, I was like, I'm pretty impressed with this. Like for 48, I wasn't expecting all that. So that's cool.
Yeah.
And then the last thing I'll say, it has nothing to do with the movie itself, but in this intro, and we had it once before, but you know when they do the Janus intro and the guy's hitting the gong?
Yeah.
Is that Kirk Douglas?
No.
Go watch it again. Yeah. I think that's Kirk Douglas.
I get that. It's the chin.
Okay.
It's a big 50s man chin.
But I'm not crazy, right? Like that would have made sense if it was him. He was kicking around that time, no?
Wrong. I mean, that's like a British company thing, though. That particular one, Kirk Douglas, is definitely not that.
Well, I was trying to make like a Spartacus connection.
I see.
Not the case.
Kirk Douglas. I'm gonna type in gong. Kirk Douglas gong guy. See if there's other people who shared this thought. No.
Okay. Yeah.
A film called Tough Guys from 1986 comes up. So that's not very helpful. Yeah. So how about that Technicolor?
Yeah, man. Looks good. I liked it.
Yeah, so I mean, I watched my my old DVD of this, like old, like not the current Blu-ray, which I'm sure probably looks far more spectacular. Because at times I found the DVD was a little on the murky side, but I still liked. I think it really like you can't keep that color down in the during the dance during the actual Red Shoes performance stuff.
Right.
But yeah, I mean, so like last week I had mentioned like in passing, like you made Martin Scorsese cry because you were being mean to the Red Shoes. Because I guess this is like one of his all-time favorite movies. Like he collects like memorabilia for this movie. Like he's really gone to bat for this movie to make sure that it's like restored and like kept alive. Because I guess like the first time he ever watched this was on TV and that would have been in black and white. And so like years later when he got to actually see a print of it in color, he was like, what the fuck, like this movie is in color. And like that I just imagine that like that idea of like watching something in that particular way and then realizing, oh wait, that wasn't the way I saw it in the first place. Once again, marveling at the beauty of the title cards in this. I thought they're so good looking, just like the paintings. Like I don't know, they're not like particularly amazing. I mean, they're no Spawn opening credit sequence, but
few things
are right. And yeah, my question was, RJ, have you ever been so enthusiastic about anything in your life like those people going to see the ballet?
There have been a few times where I've really had to go to the toilet, and it is pretty aggressive and enthusiastic, bursting through doors. But that's a whole other kind of thing. That's not quite, but it is similar, you know.
Yeah.
That's about it.
Yeah. So I mean, there is like swaths of this film that are kind of poor. Like, so I watched this movie years ago on like by myself. God. Like when I would have bought this DVD, and this was like one of those movies where I'm like, oh, Martin Scorsese likes it, so I better watch it too. And like I didn't remember like huge chunks of this movie. Like I had no idea like the second half of this movie, like where it went. Like there's a lot of stuff in islands and in drawing rooms, and like characters just conversing and like reading letters and stuff like that. And I was always like, wow, like watching it again, I'm like, I don't remember a goddamn thing of this, and I know I've seen it. But I mean, like a lot of that stuff, sort of like, I mean, like when I said like it kind of goes down like predictable routes. Like to me, I'm like I knew kind of like, well, this is where it's going to go. But at the same time, I mean, there's sort of a satisfaction you get with Boris getting served when like he's not getting what he wants. The characters have gone behind his back, and I'm trying to remember the name of the actor, Anthony Walbrook or something like that. Like he really sells like that disappointment in a really low key sort of way. That like he seems like he's like trying to play like through smiles and like being like, oh, well, how long has this been going on for? And like while trying to be like the composed like ringleader of all this and like unshakable and just like the kind of the ultimate prick. And now it's like he's been totally shanghaied and he didn't see it coming. So like that's like definitely one of the highlights for me as far as like the character stuff goes. But yeah, I mean, sorry.
You know what else he does to show his disappointment? One of those classic open palm fist punches.
Oh,
he just punches an open palm. There's never been a symbol more familiar with humans ever than just anger. It's just a guy punching his open palm. Love it. They don't do that enough anymore. Man.
There's like Anton Walbrook's the name of the actor in it. As Boris. There's like the one scene that my friend Dan and we still laugh about to this day. It's in the in Minority Report with Colin Farrell, where it's like Tom Cruise has like gotten away and he's like on the conveyor belt being like kind of like pulled out of his sight, and like Colin Farrell's like running after him and he's like, he got me. Oh, you no good. And it's like, I don't know, it borders on like in 1948 it plays well. In 2002 it's like it's like wrong era, my friend, wrong era. And we can never go back, unfortunately.
I love seeing that. I wish it happened more and more and more.
But yeah, so like probably my favorite thing in watching this movie though was just like watching the use of editing and use of close-ups and camera movement. Like usually in movies that stuff is kind of like it's just there. Like you don't really pay attention to it too much. Usually it should just be invisible. But this movie, like, man, like the use of close-ups are like really, really good. Like like all the characters are like really in their moments doing it. Like particularly in the opening scene. With like Julian Crester like listening to the music, and then like his like slow reveal of like recognizing this music as his own, and like him like muttering things to himself. And then like it keeps cutting back, and like it builds up this space. Like you really know where everyone is kind of situated in like 4 shots. You know where you know where the conductor is in the pit. You know where like Lermontov is like around the curtain, and then like where the Andrew Page, the shitty professor ripping off his students. You know where he is. Like it's just like all like really well done in a way that like, I don't know. Maybe it's like, I didn't have enough things to talk about with this movie, but like I was like really like appreciative of like like the technical stuff more than anything, and I could definitely see why old Marty would be drawn to this movie just as something that it's totally worth watching, just to see like all the little gestures and like just like scenes that like where it's like just people in drawing rooms just chatting away or whatever, or like moving around, like everything's like really well done, precise, in like just like a classic sort of way. So it's it makes it all look very effortless, which is like something, because we've all watched movies where it seems like filmmakers make their jobs look really hard because they're really bad at it.
Totes, man. No, I agree with you. It's impressive. That's what I mean. It's like when I was watching, I was like, I can't believe this thing was filmed in 48. Crazy. Yeah,
I mean, and I guess like when it came out in 1948 in Britain, it was a flop. This movie did not do well at all. Did not find its audience, and I guess like that's sort of like that was the rep that Powell and Pressburger had as filmmakers. They just like, I don't know, it seemed like they were really making great stuff. Like as we will come across down the road, they've made some really good movies. I'm pretty excited to watch Black Narcissus again. The Peeping Tom is pretty interesting. Right. Yeah, no, they're good stuff. I'm trying to think. There's something else I was going to say there, but I'm blanking out.
Maybe it was about farts.
Maybe.
I'm just guessing, but I know your character pretty well. Yeah. I'm pretty sure you were talking about farts.
Yeah, that sounds legit. Oh, so the movie was a flop. And then like I guess MGM, I think, bought up the American distribution rights, and it became like a huge hit, like one of the highest-grossing British films ever. So that's how things go sometimes. You're not appreciated in your own country.
Yeah, just go to the U.S. They'll treat you right.
That's right. Get sucked up. But yeah, they never really had like I don't think like a U.S. career or anything like that. Like they didn't make anything abroad, even though Red Shoes was such a big deal.
Yeah.
Yep. And they sure like that. They like their Alec Guinness. We were going to see him again, and it's going to be a good time.
But I don't believe it.
One of the other things I was going to ask you was, what is there to dislike about this movie? Because I mean,
I don't know. It's like I said, there's a few stretches that are a little bit. I don't know, I guess long or like slow or boring, but it never really bothered me. I could see other people saying that, but it was a non-issue on my end.
Right. Yeah. It wasn't. It was just because like that stuff isn't like the most, I don't know, dramatic stuff, but I mean it's all just character moments and stuff like that, and just like kind of shuffling the board and getting everything into the position where like because like the whole first half is like getting the characters starting from scratch, building up to the point where they're successful. Like I really enjoy the stuff with like with Craster kind of like taking over as like conductor and like setting up the meetings earlier in the morning to like convene people, and like Boris Lermontov like lurking in the shadows to watch things play out and just see like all those little subtle things. Like I don't know, it's just like all these stuff that you take for granted when you're watching these sort of like young people who are aiming high and then they find success. It's kind of like that La La Land, RJ, to a certain degree.
Kind of. It would have been nice if La La Land ended the way this one ended. Just hurling yourself in front of a train. Oh, by the way, she lives after getting run over by an entire train.
It's kind of left nebulous.
Well, she says something.
Well, she's in the process maybe of dying, or
so
just being crippled.
Yeah, I don't mean like she's like she gets up, she's like, yeah, I'm good. But I mean like she didn't die instantly by being run over by an entire train. So
yeah,
it was a better time back then, Jer. People were stronger. There was no gluten or all that stuff.
Oh shit! Strong politics.
Yep. So yeah, it was pretty good.
Pretty good. So, but who hates the Red Shoes?
Some people.
Some people hate it. Matt Broxy, 1.5 stars. What a snooze fest. I'm not a fan of ballet, and I know this isn't 100% a ballet, but still, the majority of it is. The idiotic...
why watch it?
The idiotic Victoria Page gets too caught up in her love between Julian and her love for dancing, and when she had to choose which to go with, why not just jump off a balcony? Yeah, because that'll solve everything. The ending is quick and not so well deserved for the viewer. If you're into dancing, this is the film for you. Is it? Nothing special other than the choreography stood out to me, so I wouldn't watch this film again.
I don't know why, if he doesn't like ballet, why he would watch a ballet movie.
Yeah, that's a tough one. Maybe he was doing a Criterion podcast and it didn't strike his fancy.
Also, that's like a super real like dilemma, like people who have like to choose between like a job and like a partner. I feel like that's pretty relatable. People have to do that shit. And you know what? Sometimes I'm in a tight spot, and it's like, you know what? I would like to just throw myself in front of a fucking train. Why not? So I get it.
Well, I wouldn't mind just walking out into that lake and not surfacing again.
Yeah, just driving right into a lake and just being like, well, see you later.
Yeah, that's why I log things on Letterboxd.
Yeah. So that when you do leave, a part of you still exists?
Just to numb the pain.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, that's fine too, I guess.
Yeah. Oh, you know what? Before I get to the second Haida, so that musical number though, right? Like that.
Fuck, it's good.
Like so,
so good.
What I love about it is that it doesn't try to like it abandons that pretext of like trying to like emulate, like, oh, we shot a ballet and we're filming it. It's like, no, we're going to like create it like a fake, like fantastical version of the ballet in a way that like doesn't exist, but it can totally exist in the film world, like in cinema.
Yep.
Like, so I mean, they can do like all sorts of things, like characters just appearing, the characters move from one room to another, and it's just like, no, we're still watching all the same ballet, because guess what, it's a movie, and we're going to do what we can do with that and push that boundary. And I think that's like definitely like when they're like not having to just be like telling the story, they get to do that part. That was like where all the investment of time and effort and costumes and whatnot all went into it, and it works out pretty well. And it's actually one of those cool things where like the score that like we're told is like amazing and whatnot actually plays out really, really well in the story. Because I don't know if I've talked to you about this before, but like there's always like this like strange thing in like movies where like they're talking about a movie and they're like, oh, this movie's great, it's genius, and then you watch like clips of it in the movie and it's like really bad. But it's because the filmmakers have spent more time making a good movie that they didn't spend that much time making the fake good movie inside. But it's like this shorthand way of showing, well, the movie exists and it's got to be good for the story to make sense. But then you see bits and pieces of it, and usually it plays off like it's like a parody of stuff. And so sometimes like you hear like, oh, the music's really good in this, like for instance in La La Land, and then you kind of go, I don't know if this music's actually that great, and then people are like really into it and super excited. But
well, it can't all be Wu-Tang.
What can be?
Not much, man. No, I know what you mean.
Yeah. Well, Ben, I don't know if he knows what I mean, because Ben gave this movie 1.5 stars. To anyone who liked this movie, I'd suggest reading The Movie That Plays in My Heart by Martin Scorsese. I didn't. Yes, the actual ballet of the Red Shoes around the 1 hour mark is magical, owing to dreamy tracking shots, smooth cuts, haunting set designs and lighting, hallucinatory superimpositions, and excellent choreography. It truly is one of those masterful how the hell did they do that kind of sequences. The film's use of Technicolor is also very impressive. But I was so bored by everything else. The Red Shoes is impersonal, forgettable, flat, and overlong. It's theatrical instead of cinematic, and its script is illogical, like that hurried suicide attempt. You guys all thought that was hurried, I guess.
Yeah, well,
but also somehow predictable, like the romance and the subsequent firing. Well, yeah, it was, but I don't know. The acting from the two leads is synthetic, especially from Moira Shearer, who had never acted before, and the film is jaggedly episodic. The editing within scenes is inventive, but between scenes is jarring since they don't have a natural beginning or end. The scenes just stop, like the camera spontaneously ran out of film. Personally, I only wish it had run out far sooner.
I don't quite.
Like, it's weird because, like, I read that and I go, I agree with those. I think we said all those very things, actually. But I don't think, like, those aren't, like, they didn't bother me that much where I'm like, I thumbs down. Like, it's like, no, it's still, like, pretty, like, I don't know. I would watch it again. I don't know. I don't know for me to, like, have that, like, I don't know. There's nothing to dislike about this movie. It's like, there's a lot to appreciate about it. Yeah, and like again, that dance number. Maybe I would just watch that dance sequence again, but that I would never do that probably. So I would just watch the whole movie, and maybe get more out of it a second or third or fourth time.
Yeah,
you know what I'm saying?
I do know what you're saying. Yeah, no, it's like I said, we said that stuff too, but it never really hurt the movie for me. I still enjoyed watching it. So, and I don't understand why everyone thinks the suicide thing is so abrupt. Like they kind of build it up like that she's like unhappy or like. In this dilemma. I'm sure she thought about it before that like very second. So
well, I mean, just like when you think about this idea of like the red shoes, and this film is like a metaphor of the play, and this idea of like the shoes and the ambition are like one thing, and then it burns you out, and then you die. Yeah, that's kind of the whole thing. Like it's like, it's going to have a dark ending. That's where it's going.
That's amore.
Yeah. No, yeah. I'm thinking back to the Red Shoes dance number again too. Yeah, there's like so much good stuff. Like I was actually reading a description of the actual story itself, and it definitely filled in the gaps. Like there's like the thing where like he transforms into like a piece of paper, or like the bow that she went to the thing with, and she gets trampled on by the dancing shoes, and then she gets swept away into the netherworld, and you get the other dark figures, and it's like this like really like strange dark world. And then like her
Right.
dress deteriorating and being like rotting away and stuff like that. Yeah, I don't know, man.
Super good.
Super pretty up there.
Mhm.
Yeah, I don't know. That's all I gotta say, really.
Yeah, same here, man.
Yeah.
It's pretty good shit.
Pretty good shit. Well, after the
Yep.
break, RJ and I are gonna go find ourselves some streetcars and just end it all.
We'll go out Thelma and Louise style.
It'll be very abrupt.